All right. And so with that, do I use Planner, Project Online, or Azure DevOps? That's the session. Just the background, sharing out the slides too. Thanks again. I'm excited to be here. This is my first Southeast Asia, aMS event, and so I'm glad. I've seen them in the past. It never worked out. I think it was always because of in the past, I was on the road so much, and it conflicted with other events. And so I was, one benefit of being home is everybody's at home, so we're able to participate in this. But always appreciate, as an organizer of community events, you can't do it without the sponsors, without everybody participating, making it possible. So thank you to all of our sponsors. And of course, as the team has said, hey, there's different prizes. So scan that. You'll see it throughout here. I think I will share this again at the end. And then, so I've provided a couple questions for people who, to test their knowledge of watching my session. A little bit about me, if you're not familiar with me. So I've been in the space for a number of years. I'm a 10-time Office Apps and Services MVP. I'm also a Microsoft Regional Director. Not as many people are familiar with what that is, but there's about 200 of us, 240 of us globally, and we are kind of senior architect level experts in multiple technologies and provide guidance to Microsoft and work closely with Microsoft and their product strategy and roadmap and things. I'm also the go-to-market director at AvePoint. So I run the global Microsoft Alliance for AvePoint. And AvePoint, if you're not familiar with us, we are the largest data management provider for Microsoft 365 in the world. And there's my contact information. If you have questions, please don't be shy. Reach out to me. So I'm always happy to share my slides. I've got a blog post I'll point people to that's out on Buckley Planet. And a little bit about my background here. So I want to go into and talk about, Microsoft within this space. So for many years, I've been in IT for almost 30 years. And for many years, I was doing project management and portfolio management technology. That's actually how I found my way into eventually SharePoint and Microsoft Teams and collaboration technology, was through project and portfolio management. So I spent a number of years where I would go to as a consultant and build project management organizations for different companies. And I had different tools. This is in like the late 90s, early 2000s, number of favorite tools. It was the kind of the beginning of the area of SaaS-based solutions, and the project and portfolio management space was one of the first areas to really start developing out robust SaaS platforms for project management. Now, of course, I always like to ask people, what do they think the number one project management tool out there is? It's kind of a running joke, but it's also the truth. It's Microsoft Excel. How many times have you gone in and built a work breakdown structure, organized your project, the tasks, what needs to be done in Excel? Of course, I probably use OneNote now more than I use Excel for those kinds of tasks. But Microsoft has had an opportunity for a long time to really go in and own the space around task management. And in some degrees, they've failed to do so. There's different tools, and we get excited about where they're going with it, and then they stop kind of investing in that area, and then another application opens up, and it's been kind of confused. Like, what are you doing, Microsoft? What do you want to do around this space? Microsoft Project, that desktop application, has been around for a long time, and it's very robust. And for hardcore project managers, for business analysts, people that live and breathe inside of project planning, it's still kind of the de facto solution. And of course, then there's Project Online, which is a watered down version of Project, and there are not great integrations across the rest of the Microsoft 360 stack with that. And so that was another question, like, Microsoft, are you going to go and do integrations here? So what are you going to do? Now, Microsoft came out with a strategy. They started to come out with some loose integrations, and they came out with an official strategy. In fact, I asked some executives at Microsoft, is there a team that owns task management across Microsoft 365? Or is it dispersed across all the various applications? And I was told, no, there's actually people whose job it is to own end-to-end tasks, and they work with the different areas. So that's progress right there, that there's strategy. We're not 100% there. I mean, obviously, if you're familiar with a lot of what I'm going to show you today, but for project managers and task-driven stakeholders, it's really important to understand what is available today and kind of where things are going, what Microsoft is thinking. I think, as always, as I've asked, I'm doing a blog series on this topic, and I immediately got some very emotional responses from people that Microsoft is not moving fast enough. And so they have their favorite third-party tools that are out there. And I have some favorites as well. There are some great third-party solutions, Microsoft partners, that are fully inside the Microsoft stack. And I can provide advice, after this session around that, because I'm not here to pitch any specific product or vendor, but I can certainly share with you some of my thoughts there. But it's great to have that perspective that Microsoft is moving forward on. Now, their vision for tasks and for task management specifically, it's really around three core areas. So the first one is the idea of coherence. So is that you have this consistent and familiar behaviors no matter where you go and engage. And you think of this like a few years ago, the sharing button. So if you go into OneDrive or sharing within Teams or in Word or PowerPoint, and you click that share button, and the menu that would appear in those four experiences would be very different, and the capabilities that are there. So they've gone in now pretty much across Microsoft 365. If you click on share, or the mobile app for any of the applications, you're seeing a fairly consistent, coherent a set of features for sharing. And it's a similar experience that they're trying to develop across the Microsoft 360 stack for task management, so that when there's a task, that it's certain behaviors and that you can expect to see it in certain places. Again, it's not all there yet, but that's what Microsoft is thinking, what they're talking about. Second is around intelligence. So it's the artificial intelligence, the machine learning capabilities, building intelligence into the tasks, the things that are repetitive. So not just that we get the robust analytics out of it, but that we can actually proactively use that data, use those insights, learn more about the nature of the project, the telemetry of the project plans. Because that's what really people want. When you talk about what am I trying to accomplish with project management tools, it's important to have the task management and to know the relationship between tasks, the work breakdown structure, the dependencies there, the timeline, the resource assignments. All of those things are important. But ultimately, my experience in building out PMOs was that what organizations really want is okay, we have these repeated projects. What are we good at? What can we do to improve so that we can deliver more, deliver faster, be more efficient in our resources, to know who are the star project manager or product developer for this feature set that we can optimize, deliver more quickly by rearranging the resources that we have. I mean, those kinds of insights is what people really want. And then third is that integration. So wherever a task experience exists in Microsoft's apps and services, then it will feed into and connect with two places. And so any task that's assigned to me, no matter where it's assigned to me, in Outlook, in OneNote, in Planner, in Project Online, in DevOps, eventually, I'm not making any claims that that's what Microsoft exactly is trying to do with the integrations with Project Online and DevOps, and I'll get into those details more. But the idea, the vision is that if a task is assigned to you, it should show up in your to-do. Similarly, if you could do that with Planner today, so that no matter where, if you are assigned to tasks in Microsoft Planner, those tasks will show up in your to-do view. And that's the goal of that. So where can you create tasks? So here's a lot of icons. There's a lot of graphics on here. I think these are all up to date. It might be one or two that there's new versions of that since I put this together. But these are all the different places where you can create tasks today. Missing from this is Azure DevOps, and I'll get to that. So primarily, tasks are created across that top tier. So Planner, Project, To-Do, and Outlook. But then you have that second tier, and Teams really kind of moves up into that top tier with the creation of the tasks capability and lists as well. But you have Teams, OneNote, the Office applications, the mobile apps, but across the productivity suite of tools, Cortana. And then you also have Yammer, SharePoint, and we'll see if anybody knows what that last logo is. So is Microsoft going in there and re-engineering, reinventing project management? And no. And they, as I said, Microsoft has had this opportunity to go out and really own the Microsoft, the project management space. And yet they haven't, because people have different needs. There's no single tool, single solution that's going to meet all of those needs. And so it's great. I think Project, again, the desktop version of Microsoft Project is like one of the strongest, most well-known, recognized solutions out there for project management. And yet still Excel probably has deeper penetration in project management activities globally. But with all the cloud-based solutions that are out there and the desire for Kanban, I'm a huge fan of the Kanban lists. And this goes back to actually college, learning about this at university, using sticky notes and organizing kind of like, here's what we're going to prioritize, what we're working on in process, to verify the things that are completed, to keep things organized in very complex team-based activities. And so early on, this is actually a snapshot from a Kanban type tool and capability that was built inside of SharePoint, an old version of SharePoint. I think an earlier version of this, it didn't look this graphical, but was available in SharePoint 2007, so going back. Now, of course, there's been updates. There's other tools that are out there, like Trello. This is the screenshot from Trello, and which really kind of pioneered on the Kanban, the drag and drop. And so the idea that I could invite anybody in, so I could have internal people, external people, yet go in and quickly put together the tasks or the buckets of the categories of tasks, drag and drop in between, assign tasks to different people, that I could have my view of that world. But it was just very flexible and dynamic, and people really liked that capability. In fact, for years, there was those requests to the Microsoft project team, like, why can't we do this Kanban? And so I worked with a company called Project Arena back in 2000, 2001, and that was a big piece of their functionality. They were one of the kind of Kanban models, so that you could do these scrums as for technical project management teams. It was great having that capability. Now, of course, project management, where it kind of fits into the broader category of collaboration, it should be part of your overall strategy, because you think about that. Even if you're just thinking about focusing on solving the project management problem, there's documents that are involved. There's assets that you're creating, the end result of the tasks, things that you might want to attach and templatize a project plan, so you could go back and use that and access all of the artifacts and documents that were created through that project and keep that embedded as part of that template. So it's as much about capturing all the information and having it correlated to those tasks, to those templates that you create. You may not use project management tools. Maybe you're just looking for a coordinated task management and just something very simple. That's fine. Again, there's no right or wrong reason there. It's finding the right tool that's going to best meet kind of the project management and collaboration culture and needs, the output for your organization. The problem with project, as I kind of alluded to, is that hardly anybody uses the advanced features. Of course, that's also true about Microsoft Excel. Most people use, it's like the 80-20 rule. We use like 20%, and there's all that rich functionality that's there if we ever need it, but the vast majority of what we do is just in that top layer. And project is kind of the same thing. Historically, there's not been that kind of casual project manager tool set. And so that was one of the things. It was hardcore. If you're using Microsoft Project, then again, you might be like a Project Management Institute, PMP certified PM. It's just very detailed, and which is still needed and necessary for people that are in those kinds of roles. But most people want something that's more on the casual side. They want to get work done. They want to track and organize their activities and make it easy to collaborate with others and make the task and the assignment and the dependencies transparent and easy. And that's one of the reasons why the Kanban model is so wanted. So there's this, what's needed is that bridge in between the complex projects and the casual project management capabilities. So one of those questions was, hey, is that Planner that does that? So Microsoft's vision, again, for modern project management, communication. So you need to have the chat, the meetings, the news, and other artifacts that are stored within SharePoint, live events, kind of all those components. There's the collaboration activities, the day-to-day. Teams is a great fit for that collaboration activity. Document creation and co-authoring, feedback and polls, shared notes, threaded conversations, all those kinds of things. But then there's also the management aspect. So tracking actual action items to know that we're running late on a project and what the cost impact is. The personal productivity. So having that view of what is assigned to me. What do I need to be focusing on, and what are the due dates? How do I prioritize? I've got 30 different tasks assigned to me. What do I work on first? What's the right order based on the dependencies in the project? And then being able to track that large scale project management organization, PMO, or portfolio view of projects. Part of the problem with Microsoft Project is it is so individual project focused, but the reality is that we're involved in dozens of projects, every month that we go through, and we might have tasks across, a handful of tasks in one, dozens of tasks in another project. And again, how do we prioritize that from that personal view? And it really comes down to that question. Everybody's favorite question is, which tool do I use? What's out there? I like this just simple graph that Microsoft provided where they say, well, looking at the complexity and the number of people, where you have to do at the bottom left, because that's individual. It's meant for you as an individual. But then you also have the Tasks app. It's just another view of what's assigned to you, but over inside of Teams and that Task app. Then you have Planner, which is more people, but it's also simplistic. And complaint that a lot of people that are hardcore project management that are looking for those advanced features, that's where they complain that Microsoft's not moving fast enough. They're not giving us enough features there. But it's meant to be simplistic. Then you have the project desktop. There's actually a big step in between Planner and what Project Desktop. And then you have Project for the Web, which is the goal is to be more of that portfolio management view of that. And that you have teams that are geographically dispersed. So, different domains and logging in, and that's why it needs to be out in the cloud. Entirely separate from that, you have Azure DevOps. It's just a different thing altogether. And I'll be honest, the title for this session actually came from a question that I was asked at an event earlier this year, where somebody asked that question, and I didn't have like a quick answer for them. So I knew that, well, it's not a great question because Azure DevOps is a very different thing than these other things, but I can see where people might be confused about it, just the way that it works and it functions. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look inside of each one of these just real quick at a high level. So At the high level, let's start with Microsoft Project and what that looks like and how tasks look inside of the tool. And I've got a bunch of screenshots here. I'm going to show right at the end kind of a high-level demo. I'm going to look inside if you've not seen Azure DevOps, so you can see some of the differences here. Microsoft Project, as I said, remains one of the leading tools that are out there. I think this is all standard fare. Again, like Excel, Microsoft Project has very robust project management capabilities. So there are people that live inside of Microsoft Project and around those plans that they build. And so, I mean, I'm not up to date on everything that Project did. I always like to share that I was introduced to SharePoint formally, like working with it. I'd read about it, but back in 2005, where I was deploying or attempting to deploy Project Server back in 2005, which we never got working. We spent a lot of money on, but I kind of caught the SharePoint bug. That's how I got into the SharePoint world. But anyway, so you have your work breakdown structure, you have the relationships there, you have your assignments, the resource assignments, you have different ways of viewing those tasks. Again, this is the standard fare. I'm assuming everybody is familiar with what Microsoft Project does and how it does task management. Now, within that, of course, with Project Online, there's a lot more of that kind of portfolio view. There's a way to push your plans over to Planner. There's not a two-way. There's not a back and forth. There's been a lot of requests. I don't know where Microsoft is with some of those requests and whether they're really looking at building deep integrations between Planner and Project. So that's something that, I know user voice is not a thing anymore, but if you have specific requests around this, provide that feedback through Microsoft Tech Community and through the new feedback site that Microsoft has put out. Planner, of course, is that more ad hoc, flexible, team-based task management tool. Tasks inside of Planner, it follows the Kanban model. And so for project-centric organization, Planner is really a quick and easy way to get organized. I've argued that Microsoft Project, and certainly Project Server and its direct competitors, they're really overkill for what the majority of individuals need and small teams want. They want something that is quick and easy so that they can get their planning organized and help drive accountability. And again, Microsoft Planner is integrated with Microsoft Teams. And so you see a lot of that, that task management vision, multiple plans that you could have a plan or multiple plans within each Microsoft team that you're a member of. You could be assigned tasks within all of those. And in the Tasks app within Teams and within To Do, you can see all of those tasks that have been assigned to you and keep yourself organized. So it's really powerful. It's available for those that are using Teams today. And so again, this may not meet everything that you want it to be there. So building out, all of the requirements that you've got the bucket or the column that they're in, the high-level progress and priority, all of which you could go and do a filter view on, like what are all of the in process, what are all the tasks that are assigned to specific people, what are the start date, the due dates around these things, so you could really kind of go and monitor the critical path, all the things that you want to do, as well as they added in the ability to go and add a checklist. Like one of the requests early on that I said, I'd love to be able to, if I build in a checklist within this task within Planner, can I promote a checklist item to a full task within a bucket within Planner? That's an example of a request that's being made. So again, you have it all within Teams. Planner has the ability to create multiple Planner boards within a team or channel, or you can leverage that single. So if you're going to add to a new channel, to a new team, you can pull a shared Planner plan into multiple teams. That's pretty powerful as well. So you're not duplicating effort and you're coordinating in a single plan across multiple teams, which is pretty powerful. And then, of course, you have the ability to go in and look at those tasks, those that are assigned to you via To Do. Speaking of To Do, if you're not using Microsoft To Do, like I was at the grocery store this afternoon, I have on my iPhone the To Do app and my shopping list. And why do I have it there? I have it shared with my wife. So I can go in and I don't have to, I can say, hey, go add it to the app. She's like, can I just tell you what to buy? Like, nope, I will not remember. I will try not to remember this. So get it into the application. But it's a great way to kind of keep track of everything. And I'm using it more and more. I love having that. I'm a list guy. I'm a task guy. I have my handwritten notes. I have To Do. I use Planner. And I'm constantly moving the pieces around and consolidating, and it's just how I stay organized with what I have to go and do. One of the things that I love is using the To Do desktop application. So actually going in and adding, whether it's tasks as people email me and dragging them in Outlook, and I'll get to Outlook in a minute, but dragging that over into tasks so that it automatically publishes it within To Do, or creating by project or by plan that I'm a member of, organizing my tasks, dragging them, dropping, or promoting them into my day so I can organize on a daily basis what is the priority of the things that I need to go and accomplish and the due dates around them. And I can then update there in To Do, and it automatically updates the status across those plans. So some pretty powerful things there. And so it's great to see that where the status that changes when you complete something, it automatically updates there. You can, again, reassign. You can all of the different attributes that are over the right side of the application there. Again, I primarily use To Do via my mobile app, but I have it on my desktop, and I often will add things to it within the desktop and then use it off of my phone when I'm out and about, especially when I'm traveling. It's a great way to keep track of what I need to be doing while I'm out on the road. Now, of course, as I mentioned, with the Planner and To Do integration, users can see their tasks across Microsoft 365 across To Do, so including flagged emails in Outlook. So that it's just another. I wish that it didn't. It flagged emails within Outlook. Like I could move them into a specific plan. That's another request that's out there, feature request. But at least I have that there within To Do and that other list, or bucket there of flagged emails. But you can view your task deadlines and details and plan to get more done throughout your day. And as I mentioned, sharing the shopping list with my wife, you can share to-do lists. And this is an example of that streamlined, consistent sharing experience. So you share within the app, and then there you have a common interface in sharing out your to-do lists. And there's a lot you could do there. Again, just go and create something, share it out with somebody, attach to that to-do list, and push it out via mobile. Outlook is another place where tasks are often created. I'm a huge fan of, in older versions of Outlook, of just being able to drag and drop an email. Somebody sends me an email and says, hey, this is something that we want you to go and do. Well, now there's multiple ways. If you're leveraging Microsoft 365, if you're using the online version of the Office suite, there's a lot more robust AI capabilities that are available through the cloud. So there's different ways tasks can be identified. Like if somebody mentions me when we're co-editing, and I'll come back to that one, we're co-editing something that actually does a notification. But if somebody sends me an email, I can actually go in and identify, hey, the items within this email, highlight them, create a task, from the body of the email, highlight the items, and create the tasks, and it does it right there in To Do. Or I could drag the entire email over into the calendar, create a calendar reminder for a task to do. Create a task, create a calendar reminder. And so that's just another thing that I do quite often. And then, of course, you can go down to the bottom left there. You have the check mark there, which is the task view of things. So you can go in and look at all the prioritized tasks. And, of course, within the mobile experience, you have a lot of those pieces there as well. I know I'm running through some of these screens very quickly. All the slides, happy to make them available so you can go through this and look at any of these things. And again, if you have questions about anything that I've shown you, feel free to email me. I'm happy to have a discussion to answer any questions. Like, this is what I was talking about at that point, that kind of thing. So within Microsoft Teams, which is now the task by Planner and To Do, I've talked about that at length, but the ability to go in and look at and basically filter your view. You can look plan by plan that you're a member of, as well as look at everything assigned to you. So it's just like it's a smart, sophisticated way to go in and look at all tasks that are assigned to you that you own or that you manage for the projects and the plans that you work with, and filter your view, change that to navigate through those tasks, but directly there within Planner. The most significant there is the list view on the task tab. So you can switch to the existing boards, charts, and schedule views that you're used to over inside of Planner. But there's a Teams task list picker, which appears under your personal tasks next to the left side rail as well. And then, of course, you have, the Microsoft Lists capability, and I'm not going to go into detail around that, but one of the templates that's out there, and this caused confusion. People say it was like, well, with Microsoft Lists, you have a template that's available for me to go and do like an issue tracker, and it has project planning. And this is, again, the idea that there are multiple ways to go in and accomplish different tasks. So these templates that are available through lists will not meet the needs of most of what you're trying to do from a project management standpoint, but sometimes all you're looking for is the quick and simple get organized. Like, these are great. Where I've utilized these templates is in a working meeting, where we're going through and say, for this activity, we're organizing this event or this workshop we're putting together. Use these quick templates because it's a way to quickly navigate, help guide you through that process of getting organized around that thing. So it's pretty cool capability. And of course, you can build off of any of those templates into Microsoft Lists. And there's obviously so much about Microsoft Lists, and there's great content out there about lists. OneNote Tasks is one of those areas that I wish Microsoft would move more quickly on. I live inside of OneNote. It's open on my desktop pretty much all day, every day. I'm in there creating content, taking notes, capturing meeting notes, all those different things. From a task perspective, so you have the ability, you're probably aware of, if you have a list of bulleted items that you can go and do, you can go in there, select the items, and go and flag them for follow-up. That then creates, so it's that flag icon, the menu drops down and says, hey, this is something that I need to follow up on this week. So it will send reminders and flag it via Outlook. Put a custom date around that. And then how that looks is that then shows up, hey, around this meeting, hey, these tasks that happen, I flagged these items, and then it will automatically, over in Outlook, when you go down to the bottom left to that task icon, it'll identify, here are the things that were created out of that meeting. So there's an integration today between Outlook and OneNote for that task management. And because it's showing up there within the flagged, it's showing up in the flagged emails over within To Do as well. So it's not the integration that I want at the depth that I want, but it's there. And so just understanding how that works is a way that you can really kind of get organized around your tasks. And Renee, any questions yet? I know I'm going through and just talking through. Anything that I can answer at this point?
Yeah, there's one specific for Planner. For collaboration with external parties outside the organization, are there any restrictions using Planner? So it's the restrictions are set in the access to the Planner and the team, the environment for external guest users. I think that's where the restrictions are. There's nothing that's specific around Planner and the tasks that are shared. And I'm not sure about the notifications. That's something I could follow up on. If you send me an email, I can answer this question for you. I know who to go to ask for that question.
I think I think a broader question might be, right, the planner versus planner integrated within the teams. I think there is a slightly lesser version as far as when I used it prior, but I'm not sure whether the latest updates they have narrowed the gap.
That's a great question, because I don't know, because honestly, I have like the book learning version of the standalone planner plans, because I've only used it through Teams, through the apps there. So I don't know if they're what the nuances are, the differences, especially when you're talking about external access.
Yeah, so I think before you, if you think it would be a cool thing, I mean, for our audience, if you think it would be a cool thing to integrate, to open a planner within your teams, it's good to check out the differences in capabilities between Planner as a native app and Planner as an integration to Teams. I do believe there are slight functional differences, right, which you need to be careful of, because obviously the native Planner is going to be a lot more flexible.
Yeah, and there's one other nuance. I know it's not on that, but just something else I thought of when you talk about there being some nuances. I think that there are also some nuances around people that are using Macs, so Apple devices. So not for the mobile, but through Safari and other things. There might also be some nuances there. They might be gone now, but there were some slightly different behaviors in the application. But again, I'm not up to date on what's been happening there. This is one of those things where, for those other MVPs are aware of this, like that, people just assume that we're up to date on all those things. There is so much that's changing so quickly across all these applications. So sometimes it's great to get questions like this. I can go and follow up. Don't know the question right now, but just want to make sure that I'm answering with the latest, greatest information about what's changed there. So the Office app tasks, just very quickly around this, you've all seen this. So this is part of the AI, the intelligence that's into the cloud versions, the latest versions, the Microsoft 365 versions of the Office productivity app. So when you think about Excel and Word and PowerPoint, so the ability to go in again and highlight items, just like you could do in OneNote, and assign tasks or create app mentions to people. Right now, it doesn't go create a task that goes anywhere, but an app mention does an email notification to the person that you've assigned it to, that you've app mentioned. They can then drag and drop that email notifications open to go create a task. And then it shows up within To Do, within that flagged email and that Outlook integration there. So that's not a clean process between these things. I would love to be able to have a more refined, it's great to app mention just to notify somebody to go and do an edit, but what if I want to create a task right from that interface and assign it to somebody in a specific project and have that appear within this bucket? I would love to see that kind of deeper integration. You also have, and I'm just going to very quickly, like Cortana Tasks around that. So if you have this kind of integration, there's a lot of things that you could do out there where, again, you can, right from Cortana. I have it turned off in my system, because when you talk about Cortana and you have her turned on, then it gets kind of annoying while you're trying to give a presentation. But you can right there, have the audible messages add to your to-do list. So that's something that I had on for a long time until I kept forgetting to turn it off. And now I keep forgetting to turn it back on. But you can actually, through any smart devices, so Alexa and Siri, you can do those integrations where your default task management is To Do, and capture all those things. So, which is a great thing. I have that with my phone while I'm driving, so it adds to my To Do. So I can, if I remember as I'm driving, because isn't it when you're driving, you're away from home, away from your desk, and you're hands free, when you remember several things that you need to do later in that day, and so you don't forget. Right there, I request that Siri go in and add them to my list. She just woke up when I just mentioned her name there. So, and there's some great third-party integrations as well. There's more that you can do around the task creation. And so I've got like a link there of a gentleman that had some creative task capabilities that he identified. Now at the bottom, and this is more just to kind of highlight here. Does anybody know what that bottom right logo is? Renee, Rico, do you guys know what that is in the bottom right? Yeah, nobody knows what that thing is because nobody has an Android, apparently. Yeah, it's called Microsoft Launcher, and it's actually being expanded. I just bring this up because there's been requests and there's been some conversations around task experiences inside of these other workloads. I don't have anything to talk about today, the roadmap around these things. But Microsoft again recognizes that there are places where they need to be displayed or consumed, those tasks. But also, if people are working in these other environments, it may make sense to create experiences where you're able to go and create the task, view the task from these different interfaces. So, if you're using Yammer from your social network to be able to go and have a conversation and right there say, hey, there's this thing, can you take care of this? Create a task, assign it, and get notified in their to-do. Kind of like doing an app mention, but it creates a task. Similarly, on our intranet, we might have an interface where if there's questions around there where it could create tasks based on, workflow rules, based on a request that comes in, automatically assigns tasks to people somewhere in the organization to that workflow. And the Microsoft Launcher is just an interface through, a Microsoft experience to the Android platform, and there's more that's coming there. So with all of that, I know as we're running short on time here, then there is Azure DevOps. And this really kind of came to the core of the question months ago that I was asked, and the title of this session is, well, what about Azure DevOps as far as a project management tool? And so I'll just say it, Azure DevOps is not a project management or collaboration solution per se. It's not, but it's software configuration management, source code management platform, development collaboration platform. So it does have some project management and collaboration capabilities. And this kind of goes back when I worked in this world, we didn't refer to it as the DevOps space. So my first 3 books that I co-authored, if anybody remembers Rational Software, so I actually had a startup that I sold to Rational Software back in 2001, but I worked within what is now the DevOps space. So I worked closely with, and my first book was on a ClearCase, which IBM acquired Rational Software. So that's why a lot of us in the Microsoft world are not familiar with Rational, because IBM owns them, and they kind of squashed the brand. But it had a very rabid and passionate community around that. But ClearCase was always like the BMW of software configuration management, code management, source code management platforms. Then Rational ClearQuest, and then more around both the Rational suite in that first book, Secrets of the Change Agent. So that's kind of like my background while I'm passionate about the space. But I want to show you, for those that have not seen this, and this is just a demo environment, so there's not a lot of data, there's no data in it, but at least it gives you an idea of why there's some of this confusion around, well, can't we just go in there and use Azure DevOps? Because it utilizes the kind of the default board view is the Kanban model. And so, again, the to-do, the doing, the done, you could create other buckets or other categories here. I could go in and look at the work items and at the actual work breakdown structure. I can go in there and create, hey, here's the dependencies, here's the assignments, here's other related activities that are happening, discussions that are there, at-mention people there, descriptions, and having subtasks that are within each one of these things. And then I can go back, and it's very popular is back to the board view. I can say, it's like, all right, hey, we have this list of items that we've gone in and we've created here, and I'll just say, create a task as an example. I could go in there and say, hey, well, this is something that it is, marked it as to do. Let's actually put it over in the doing. I can save it and close, moves it over there. I can drag it back over there. So it's just a very flexible way as the development team is going through and saying, hey, we're working on version 4.0 of our product. What are the features that we have? List them all out, attach the dependencies, drag and drop them, assign them to people, all of those things. But it's from the perspective of the development team, the development activities. So there have been, again, valid questions of, we're using this heavily, the development organizations. Doesn't this just kind of displace the need for using Planner? And so this is like the answer to any IT question is, it depends. Like, what are you trying to do? What is the organization that you're trying to solve this project management and coordination capabilities with? Now, I love this thing here. So you have these active items, the backlogs. So creating the scrums, creating each of these. Like, we used to use something very similar, not just for in technical marketing organizations that I worked with, that I was an evangelist for some other ISVs, and we would utilize Kanban for this, for the scrums, for the features that would be developed, but we'd also use it for campaign development. We'd use it for all these other things. So yes, you can do those things within Azure DevOps, but you could do those also over within Planner. And so my rule of thumb is that if you have an engineering or analyst or project management title and it's around creating product, you do it over in Azure DevOps. For all other project management activities, it would be over within Planner or Project in the appropriate platform. Now, having said that, here's my which tool do I use? And I'll just add, where is it in the build? There it is. Or Azure DevOps, that's kind of outside of that. It depends what you're trying to accomplish. And that's why it's important to understand what is the degree to which the culture of your organization has needs. What are you trying to accomplish? Who are the primary audience? What are the interactions that are happening there? And it may be that your development team is using Azure DevOps, everybody else is using Planner. Your project managers that are doing the detailed project management might be using Project and just keeping track and pushing data to Planner with that one-way integration. There's no two-way on that. So if you complete a task, it doesn't show up there, so it's not solving for that need. But again, if you're a very project-centric organization that needs more robust features than what Planner provides, and having it disconnected from the team, and using Project Online or Microsoft Project Desktop, there are other third-party solutions that are out there as well. So do your homework, understand what your needs are, what your goals are. But at the very high level, what I say, for which tool do I use? So Project Online, it's really about that project management, portfolio management, timesheets, resource planning. It's the traditional project management view of the world. And whether your Project Online has all the features that you need, and this is really about more of that portfolio view, so multiple projects and being able to show the roll-up and stats and shared resources between those things. Or if it's a smaller scope, Microsoft Project Desktop will work for that. Again, Microsoft Project is that standalone project plan, and of course, a lot of details that out there. It's you could go and buy just a couple licenses, have people that are then share out reports and views into that data, but have a limited subset of your organization that have access to that more complex, that richer platform. You have then Microsoft Planner, which if you're using Teams, everybody has access to that. Or if you're not using Teams and just want access to, as Rico pointed out, the standalone Planner SKU, it is available out there. But this is something where it's heavily reliant on that Kanban model. It's much more dynamic and flexible. But because of the to-do integration and the integration through Teams, I mean, it's a very powerful collaboration management tool. And so if you've not yet gone in and played with Planner and started and understood the integrations with To-Do and looked at how that works, it's something that I highly recommend that you go and do. And of course, as part of that, also go and understand Microsoft To-Do and make sure that your organization, if you are using Planner, you must go in and understand, okay, how does this look? How does this show up in To-Do? How can our teams, how can our employees, how can you yourself get more out of Planner by also using To-Do? And then finally, Azure DevOps, this is really about, the application lifecycle. That's what it's there for those engineering-centric organizations. So I know we just have a few minutes left there. I just want to share, thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you for sitting through this. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter at Buckley Planet, my blog at buckleyplanet.com. If you go to my blog and just search on task management, then you'll find a bunch of content around there. I'm actually writing a series where I'm doing in-depth, just as I've done at a high level in this presentation, I'm doing an in-depth series over the next 2 months where I'm going through every one of those applications and sharing documentation and guidance on where the integrations are and trying to be very detailed in that. My goal ultimately by the end of the calendar year, hopefully by end of the calendar year, is to compile all of those blog posts into a free, no registration page, but an ebook so that people can have it all in one place with all the resources that you can click and get to there. Of course, I also have a lot of videos out on YouTube, and my podcast is available everywhere. And so with that, are there any other questions?
Yes, there was one question from Ivy. She's asking which of those apps are actually able to measure targeted completion date versus the actual completion date?
We say mesh them together. I mean, so when you're looking at really playing with the timeline and understanding the different views of that, you're very limited with Planner. And so you're really talking about project, desktop project online. Azure DevOps, I'm not as familiar with. I believe you can also go in there and look at that. So that's where you really can manipulate the data and say, well, that's what Project Online and Microsoft Project are strong at, is that you can start playing with resources and the critical path of projects and do kind of like what if scenarios around delivery of these different tasks. Say, if I mark this one complete, how does that change the overall timeline? And look at things like, here what was projected, here's what we originally stated, here's what the actual delivery was, where was it, what ran over. That's Project and Project Online.
Yeah, so I think the Kanban concept and the MS the so-called the PMI project management concepts would be quite different, I think, Christian, right? So the original Kanban model came out from, if I remember correctly, a Toyota factory, right? So you gather with a team and say, okay, so these are the stages of a task, and why on earth is there a backlog here, right? And which are the tasks that are due, okay? And why isn't it completed yet? Then you realize that you only have this amount of manpower, right, within this department, and this department has that many work in progress, and essentially they can't cope, and that's where your bottlenecks are, and then you drill down on the task and says, hey, this thing has been outstanding for the last 1 month, right? So what have you guys been doing about it? I think that's the concept of the original Kanban board, right? But so right now what we do is we digitalize it and we made the sticky note a lot bigger, right? So you can put in a lot more information and you can chat, right? You can ask questions, you can chat on that sticky note, right? Which is a different view of a project, I suppose, compared to the traditional PMI milestones and.
Right. Well, I know that there are Kanban purists that are out there that complain that Microsoft hasn't done anything close to what the original concept. Then there are third-party tools that are out there that try to stay true to that kind of functionality. Well, it's like anything. You can go in there and say, if you are a Microsoft 365 shop and you're utilizing the tools that you have, then you may have to alter some of your project management activities, your methodology to kind of fit the tools that you have in hand, or go and say, hey, here's the way that we work. Find the third-party solution that's going to best fit that. And there are a number, as I mentioned, there are some third-party tools that have much more robust, that are probably closer to Project Online, but have a lot of the dynamic SaaS-based capabilities and use Microsoft 365 as the back end, so that your content is stored inside of SharePoint on the back end, for example. So there are options out there. There's multiple vendors that are in the space.
Yeah, and that being said, also there are more, there are deeper Kanban tools, probably integrated with SharePoint as a third party that you can also look up. But then obviously those are paid software, right? That if you feel
Correct.
that the simple implementation of Planner, right, it's not detailed enough, and you are a strict Kanban practitioner, and you want to tier the priority of your work and stuff like that, then obviously there are.
But if your organization has E3 and E5 licenses, then you have all of it. You're not having to pay for anything. And so there's a lot can be said. It's like, can we get by with 70, 80% of the functionality that we need because we've already paid for the tool and do that? Or again, do you need to have those more robust features and make that decision of what you need to have in place going forward?
Yeah, so I think the from the way I see the Microsoft philosophy is I give you a handful of tools, and many of them do overlap in the functionality, right? Even sharing a file. You can share a file in Yammer, you can share a file in OneDrive, you can share a file through email, right? You can share a file in Teams, right? So the idea is based on the project requirements, right? Microsoft gives its users a choice, right? And you do have to sit down and as you start your project, you have to decide what are the communication platforms, where are you going to put your files, how are projects going to be tracked? Do you need the robust PMI level of tracking, or you just want the simple about to do, going to do, I'm doing now, this is KIV, right? We have issues, and that would probably work very well with something like Planner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Completely. Well, again, I know that we've got a couple minutes here for a transition to the next, but thank you everybody for participating, for this, sitting through my session, listening to me talk. I hear myself talk all the time, so I don't need to hear more of that. So thank you for sitting through that. And it's now 9 p.m. on Thursday. So so hello to everybody in the future, but. I'm probably going to go walk my dog next. He's been waiting patiently for me.